important than ever, Kelly, and I know you feel very passionate about that we talk about it, that we do commemorate and that we remember them.
Yeah, I mean, it's so emotional, isn't it?
Very.
I think we're 80 years, only, what, 100, you said, veterans, so in another celebration, maybe we won't have them. And I think what's important is that we all know that if you get a chance to speak to a veteran, the stories they tell, most of them were children, you know, but it's so embedded in the front of their mind what they saw, how they felt, what happened on that time, that it's emotional, but it's so interesting because it's the only time that we get connected with what happened back then. I was actually part of like a 80-day D-Day celebration, and it was lighting their legacy, and it was a lantern which has been taken around by young people around the country, and those young people are actually now in Normandy. And what their procession's about is that they've put on 25,000 headstones a small candle that's going to be lit by young people to keep that legacy alive, because we don't hear enough about it, do we?
No,
I mean, look at that.
No,
I mean,
incredibly
so
powerful.
I mean, so
look at
powerful. And that was because, you know, the lights went down when all these people passed away, and now they wanted to let up to remember it, because I feel that in our history, and I don't know, you know, I haven't got children, but I've got nieces and nephews, and they have no knowledge of what D-Day meant.
Apparently half of young people don't know what
They
D-Day
just don't know. And I just feel, why aren't we keeping that alive, you know, because a lot of people had their freedom because of what happened back then, and I think it's so important that we keep that in our history.
Just like you said, I find it... Kate Garraway was there this morning live for GMB, and I found it really, really moving. She was, this was her walking through, exactly, symbolising all of the people that had fallen.
Gives me a lump, doesn't it?
It
It does.
It's something deeply
So
moving and emotional about that. And it's like you say, for a lot of our young people, youngsters, maybe not knowing what it's about. Interestingly, my little 5-year-old went to school today, and they were being told about D-Day, and it was a fish and chip day for them today. And I didn't know this, but apparently fish and chips weren't rationed. So you could eat fish and chips, and today they're having a fish and chip day to kind of celebrate D-Day. And she was asking D-Day and what it was, and she saw the news yesterday with me, and I thought, yeah, she's 5, and at least there's little seeds of information
I think
already.
that's wonderful, though, because I don't know if the audience feels I don't know if there's anybody as old as Linda and I here, but
Thanks a lot.
I remember at school, I would have loved to have learnt more about our modern history, about D-Day, because I just remember it was all about the Tudors and Stuarts, and it was about people that, yes, of course, it's interesting to learn that, but I don't think that young people know enough about this and about our two world wars. And I just, latching on to what you said, when I've had the honour of talking to a couple of the veterans through other sort of charities over the years, the memories are so... They can almost remember, well, on the Wednesday we did this, and at 2 o'clock on the Thursday we did this. It's so, you know, imprinted on their minds. And I think that something that always is amazing to me is how, obviously, nowadays we talk much more about mental health. We talk more, still not enough, and there still isn't enough care for veterans suffering PTSD. But, of course, in those days, it was just known as shell shock. And talking to people who said that they came back from going into the war at 17, they witnessed all of these horrendous things, lost loads of friends, but they came back home and they were basically given a couple of days, and then their wife said, right, well, anyway, we've got to crack on now. And lots of these people were suffering from then shell shock, but they just had to get on with it. And there was no help, and there was far more tragedies than actually were chronicled in those days. And we still need to improve how we look after our veterans physically and mentally.
Absolutely. There's a unifying unspoken language amongst our young servicemen and women now, and the veterans who are thankfully able to make it to Normandy today. It's like an army language, isn't it?
Yeah, well, military language, anyone that served, you have this real banter, you know, and where we might be offended on our day-to-day if somebody kind of says something to you untoward, in there it goes over your head and you just give back as much as you get. So you were never offended, even being a female against a male in the military, because that's what it was. And I think what is nice about getting veterans together, of course, they've all had lived experiences, and that's the only time that they really get to have their family back. The people that they served side by side. And you've got to remember also, a lot of them would have come back and have survivor's guilt because you've been serving against people
that
who
lost their lives.
didn't come back.
Didn't come back.
And that will continue for years and years. And like you say, the mental health for veterans has never been addressed. So just giving them that platform and just give people the time. If you see somebody who's, you know, selling a poppy on the side or you know they're a veteran, give them a little
Just
bit of time.
listen and
That's all
learn
they
from
want.
old people
That's all they
generally. We
want.
don't revere
Yeah.
our old in the way that some cultures do, do they?
And what you have to remember, I think what you have to remember is that they didn't sign up to, you know, to be part of the war or whatever. They were living ordinary lives, like working in banks or supermarkets or whatever, and all of a sudden they'd get a call and then they'd have to leave everything and then go and join the forces and that, and not knowing when they were coming back.
Can you imagine
and their
as mums,
Imagine
Linda, of
them
sons?
saying goodbye
Imagine
to your
it happening
son.
now.
Oh, I know. Could you imagine it? I know.
You know, like it just that's the shocking thing of our young people maybe having to
Can't
be faced
imagine
with that.
it. What those mums went through.
Absolutely incredible.
Well, you never
So-
knew if they were coming
And
back.
dads, no.
So they've gone. You do not know if they're coming back, and that's with any conflict at this day. You know, and there are young people that sign up. Like I was only 17. There's young people that sign up who are 16, 17, go to an Army Foundation College, and actually, what you get from that life skills around picking yourself up, being part of something is really special when you learn so many trades. So it is a real benefit to go into a military organisation as a young person to a lot of things, but that was so different. They weren't trained. A lot of them weren't trained. They were told, you're going over and that's it, and they did us proud. So.
Well, today is certainly a day to remember, isn't it? Very, very much.